Good morning.
Morning. You have some.
Um, you can hear me okay?
Yes, now.
Yeah, sorry, I was just setting up. Okay, we're on 99A, about 9 lines from the top, Tana Rabbana.
And then, okay.
Okay, Tana Rabbanan. We have a brisa. Asara shulchanos asa Shlomo. Shlomo Melech built 10 tables for the Beis Hamikdash. V'lohu misadrin el shel Moshe. They didn't use them all. They didn't put the well, not they didn't use them all. We'll see how they used them, but they didn't put the lechem apanim on those 10 tables. They used the original one that Moshe made. Shenemar v'esa shulchan asher alav lechem hapanim zahav. The table on the where the lechem apanim was made of gold. Um, so uh, indicating that there was just one, like that you could indicate which table by saying the gold table, and that was Moshe's, was overlaid with gold. Um,
Is that like the Mizbeach Zahav? There was a Mizbeach and a Choshen
no, this is the
Mizbeach.
Shulchan. This is the Shulchan we're
The
talking about.
Shulchan, but there was a Mizbeach Zahav also.
Yes, there was. Yeah. Esther menorahs asa Shlomo. Shlomo also made 10 additional menorahs. V'lo hayu madlikin el b'shel Moshe. But the one they used to light was the Moshe. Shneimar v'es menorahs hazahav v'nerasel leva'er ba'erev. The golden menorah and its lamps to light in the evening. So again, the singular form, the gold one means there was just the one. Rabbi Elazar ben Shalom Omer, Al Kula Hayim Esadri. No, they were 10 additional tables, and they all had lechem apanim on them. Shenemar Es HaShulchanos V'Alehem Lechem Apanim, because it also says the tables, and on them the lechem apanim. So indicating that all of the tables had lechem apanim. Ukula Hayim Adlikim, same with the menorahs, they would light all 10 of them. Well, 11 if you count Moshe. Shenemar Es HaMenorahs V'Nerosam Levarim Kamishba Lefnei Avir Zahav Sagur. Again, it refers to the menorahs, and the lit lamps in the plural. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Huda, Omer, Lohem Misarin Ala Shel Moshe. Rabbi Yossi says they will only use Moshe's table. Elmani Mekayim Es Shulchanos Alehem Lechem Apanim. So why does it also say Shulchanos in the plural? Elu Shlosha Shulchanos Shayu B'Mikdash. There were 3 tables that were in the Mikdash. So there were 3 that were used, and this is how they were used. Shnayim Shayu B'Ulam. 2 were in the Ulam, in the not in the Heichal, outside the Heichal. Mibifnim. Al Pesach Habayis. Um, they were inside the ulam, by the door, to the Beis Hamikdash. Echad shel kesef, echad shel zav. One was silver, one was gold. Al shel kesef nosan lechem hapanim bichnisaso. On the silver one, so imagine, you're changing lechem hapanim every week. So you have the old lechem hapanim on the shulchan, and now you bring in the new one. So you'd place the new one on the silver table, VL Shalzov VCSO. And then you would take the one, the old one, and put it on the golden table on the way out, when you're leaving. So that's why you needed 3. You have the actual, like the shulchan, where the bread would sit all week, and then you have the silver one that when you brought in the new one, you'd set it down while you made the swap, and then when you finished, you'd put the old ones on the golden table, the third table, and that's, I guess, where the Kohanim would pick it up from, I suppose. Shemalim
So this
Bachodesh
was
Shalom.
outside. So where was
Outside outside the Heichal, but in the Ulam. So in the outer part of the Beis Hamikdash. No, sorry, wait a second. No, that doesn't make sense. Well, maybe yes. 1 second. In the Ulam.
there
Yeah.
were 2 of them in the Ulam,
Yes.
and that's outside the Heichal.
I think so, yeah.
But it says Mibifnim Lefetach Habayit.
Right. Inside the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash consisted of the outside courtyard and the inside, the Heichal.
Right. So, but and they would put the used ones on the gold table.
Yeah. So
I
you
would
have
think
the
gold
main
is
one.
superior, though.
You have, yeah. So right. So we're going to explain why. Because shamalim bakodesh lo maridin. Because you want to always be ascending in things of kedusha. So gold is better than silver. So the main table was overlaid with gold, right? So you don't want to go from a gold table to a silver table with the old lechem apanim. So you have to go to another gold table. Um,
But
and
these are the ones you're bringing down. You're removing them.
Yeah, well, that's the mitzvah, right? Is to replace them every week. So what do you, and what happens to the old one? The Torah says that, like, look, this is a principle, Malim Bakodesh Vein
Right.
Marinin,
That's right.
that first you follow the prescription of the Torah, which is take the old bread and give it to the Kohanim, all right? But the procedure in which you do that, you should try to abide by Malim Bakodesh Vein Marinin.
So you're elevating. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Echad Shel Bifnim, and of course the main table, the one that was where the Lechem Hapanim rested all week, Shal Lechem Hapanim Tami. That's where the Lechem Hapanim was stayed. So that's why. So you could have. You had multiple tables, but the one that was used for the Lechem Hapanim all week was just the one of Moshe Rabbeinu, and the reason you had the extra ones was for the swap. We know in my reading
Where was the silver one? That was the.
they were both. There was one gold one inside the Heichal, right? That was Moshe Rabbeinu's shulchan, the original, and then Shlomo put in two more outside in the Ula, right? One gold and one silver. The silver one was for the bread on the way in, and the gold one was for the bread on the way out.
Oh, so there was a gold one inside and a gold
Yeah,
one
yeah,
outside.
exactly, exactly. That's what it says at the end here. Echad shel zav bifnim, shalav lachem apanim tami. There was one of gold inside the heichal, that was Moshe Rabbeinu's. That's where the lachem apanim stayed all week.
How did they get Moshe's table to the where did they keep it for 500 years, whatever it was? Yeah.
In the Mishkan, I guess, in the Mishkan.
And then they carried that into the into
It's
Eretz Yisrael.
Yerushalayim. Yeah, well, the 500 years it was in Shiloh and a couple other places, I think, on the way
Yeah.
to Yerushalayim. Um,
Mhm.
We know in Maridin. Where do you get this idea from? That Malin Bakodesh Ein Maridin, Amar Rabbi, Di Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, "Vayakem Moshe Hamishkan, Vayiten es Adonav." Moshe put up the Mishkan, and he placed the Adonim are like the sockets. Vayiten es Karashav, and he put up the beams. Vayiten es Berichav, Vayiten es Berichav. He put in there were like this bar that went through the middle of the beams to keep them standing up and together. Vayakam Samudav, and then he put up the pillars. So we know. So what do you get from that? Um, from the word Vayakem, that it repeats. It starts with Vayakem Moshe Mishkan. He erected the Mishkan, and it ends with Vayakem as Amudav. He erected the Amudim. So I think the idea is Ein reading that don't like change the language. I don't know. It's a little obscure here. Like what would be a different word that would be less, I don't know, important, respectful, significant than Vayakem. But by the fact that the Torah uses the same word at the end indicates that you have to like don't degrade the terms with which you're using when something Kodesh. So I don't know. It's a little unconvincing, but that's what they want to have.
There's a
Um,
commentary here I see it says that it states that Moshe was at a greater level of sanctity than
hmm
everyone else. He began the work of
Okay,
the
so
Mishkan and he
okay.
alone completed it.
Uh-huh. Okay, good one. Okay, I like that one too. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. We know in the Malin. Okay, so now I know that you can't reduce the Kedusha, but how do you know that you're supposed to increase the Kedusha and not just leave it at the same level? Amar Bach Bar Yaakov, Diamar Kra, because the Torah says, Es machtos hachatoim ha'ele b'nafshosam. So this is after the incident of Korach, right, where the 250 associates of Korach were challenged to offer kataras, and Aaron did as well, and they all died with their karbanos their kataras was rejected, and what happened to those pans? So v'yasu rikue pachim tzipui lamizbeach. They took that metal and melted it down and used it as an overlay for the mizbeach. Ki krivim lifnei Hashem vayikdashu, because these pans had been even though it was it was a negative incident, but they were offered to God. So Vayikdashu, and they became holy. V'yulos l'bnei Israel. So they should become a sign for Bnei Israel. So Batchila Tashmishe Mizbeach. First, what were they? They weren't the Mizbeach themselves. They were the incense pans. They were, vessels that were used on the Mizbeach. V'yachshav gufa shel Mizbeach. And then they become part of the Mizbeach itself. So that's Malin Bakodesh. Now we go off onto a bit of a tangent. Asher shibarta v'samtam ba'aron. Hashem tells Moshe after he breaks the luchos, take the luchos which you broke and put them in the aron. Tanei Rav Yosef. Milamed shaluchos v'shibri luchos melachem bara tells you that both the luchos, the second set of luchos and the first set of luchos were in the aron. So from this you derive that a Talmid Chacham that unfortunately forgets what he learned. You still have to, well, don't make fun of him or don't treat him poorly just because he's no longer a Talmid Chacham because he can't remember. He still has to be treated with respect. Just like the shivrei luchos, the broken luchos had to be treated with respect by being put in the aron, so too a broken Talmid Chacham, if you will, one who's no longer Talmid Chacham, not through his own fault, still needs the same respect. Amar Shlaki, Piamim Shabitula Shel Torah Zohu Yesod. Sometimes the canceling of Torah is actually building Torah. Dichsiv Asher Shibarta. Moshe broke the luchos. Hashem said to him, "Take the luchos which you broke." Amar L'Kadosh Baruch Hu Yashar Kochacha Shibarta. A famous medrash that God is telling to him. It's a play on the word Asher. It sounds like Yashar Koch, that you broke the luchos. Good one. Good job. So what does this mean? It's like because Moshe broke the luchos, he brought the people to tshuva, or at least they got their punishment, and they could move on and get the second luchos. So even though the act was a negative one, was destructive, in the end, it served to build Torah. V'yomer Shlakish
Because
also
he did
said,
it for good. The Rashi says he did Litova. Right?
yes, exactly. It ended up to be for good because had he not broken the luchos, then who knows what would have happened? They would have kept on their evil ways, and the whole enterprise could have been derailed. V'yomer Shlakish, Shlakish also says, Talmid Chacham shesarach, if a Talmid Chacham errs, like he sins, in mevazinoso b'far hesia, don't publicly degrade him. Shenemar v'chashalta hayom v'chashal gam navi imcha laila. You'll trip up today, and the navi who's with you will also trip up at night. Meaning kaseu kalayla, meaning cover up what the if the navi is taking the wrong path, then don't publicly rebuke him or disgrace him, but do it under cover of darkness. V'yamar Shlakish, which is a little strange because um, um, doesn't that kind of give cover to? Doesn't that seem to support the Navi's error? But I guess you have to judge based on the situation. Someone who intentionally forgets even one thing from his learning, he that's a transgression. Shenamar, Hishamar lecha ushmor nafshecha ma'od pentish kachas advarim. Torah says in Devarim, be careful not to forget things. Uked Rabbi Yavin Amar Rabbi La. Diamar Rabbi Yavin Amar Rabbi La. Kol makar shenamar Hishamar pen va'al. These three words, Hishamar pen and al, are indicate eno lotasa. It's a even though hishamer means like be careful. That's a positive thing. It's still phrased as be careful not to do something, so it's considered a lav. Ravina says hishamer upen shnei lavininu, that this pasuk where it says both the words hishamer and pentishkach, that's actually two lavs for causing yourself to forget Torah. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar b'shlosh eleven is actually three. Shenemar hishamar lecha ushmar nafshecha ma'od pentishkachos advarim. So it's like three words saying be careful and be very careful and lest you forget. So the three lavin about forget. So maybe this is talking about even if you accidentally, not on purpose, forget something. Lest you um, remove them from your heart, lest they be removed from your heart, which sounds more active. We're talking about when you intentionally actively remove them from your heart, not that passively you unintentionally forget. Rab Desai B'Rabbi Yanai Amar, which is a good thing because we all forget, right? That how could you how could you be over a love for something that you can't really control? Um, Rabbi Desai B'Rabbi Yanai Amar Yachal Afilu Takval of Mishnasa. Um, maybe the law applies even if it's because like you're just overwhelmed, you're learning so much that maybe you're still over. Um, Talmud rak. So the Torah uses an exclusionary word, right? That, however, or just, just be careful, which he understands to mean it's excluding um, this case where you're just overwhelmed. You've learned so much that you can't remember. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar Diamar Tarvayu. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar both said Torah Nina B'Arbaim. The Torah
So
was
it's a
given.
person who's just not able to remember for when it says rock, he's unable to
Yeah,
remember.
so like it's maybe like the way I understand it is, you should know your capabilities. So like don't take on more than you could absorb, right? So uh, now if you do, so is that a lot? Like if I tackle a topic for which I'm not ready and then I don't understand it or I forget it, right? Does that mean I'm over the love? So Rab Dostai is telling you no, you made a good try, right? You're like we don't want to discourage you from because everyone should challenge themselves in learning, right? So you have to know exactly how much, like what are you ready for? But if you overreach, we don't want that to be the Torah doesn't want that to be a classified as something that you did wrong. You overreached. Okay, so maybe learn from it or whatever. But we're not going to say that this is a lav that you tried to tackle something that you weren't ready for. That's how I understand
Maybe a
it.
material that you're unfamiliar with that material.
Yeah.
No, I
So,
mean, for instance, I don't know, a lawyer walks into an engineering class. I mean,
uh
it's a material. It's just
right. So would you say that the equivalent in Torah is like you've never learned Gemara before. You've only learned Chumash and Rashi, and then you go into Gemara class. Would you say that's a lav? And you don't understand it. It's like beyond you. So you say that's a low tasseh. So the study says no. Like maybe it wasn't the best choice, but we're not going to say it's a low tasseh, right? You tried something beyond you. Okay, so next time don't do it. Like next time, progress at a more reasonable path. But we're not going to say that you did something wrong. You see what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar Yom Tarbayu. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar both said Torah Nitna Barbaim. The Torah was given in 40 days. Unashama notes Rabbi Arbaim, and it takes 40 days to form a soul. Elsewhere the Gemara says that
Is it? That's
but the fetus before 40 days is nothing, but after that it gets a soul.
But
Um,
don't they say somewhere another Gemara? Is it Gemara Nida maybe that the zug is? We know that the partners, the zug is identified at 40 days before birth, something like this.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think that's 40 days before what? Before the birth or before the conception? I can't remember. But that's 40 days before. But there's another Gemara that says that in several places that the fetus until it's 40 days old is considered like water. It's not significant. And after that it becomes a fetus. So here we're giving the idea that that's when it gets a soul. So the Torah was given 40 days. It takes 40 days to form a soul for a fetus. Call him a shamer, tarasa, nishmasa, mishtameres. It tells you there's a link there that anyone who protects his Torah, his neshama is protected as well. There's this link between Torah and your neshama. Torah, and if you don't protect your Torah, your soul will not be safe, I guess, from corruption. Tons Rabbi Shmuel.
How do we explain the I think about that. We say that um, a ger, all the it's a concept that the ger was, in a sense, a Jew at Har Sinai, but he just isn't a until he becomes a ger, right? So when
Mm.
was his soul formed?
Uh,
How do we relate to 40 days in that
well, first
situation?
you have to ask. First, you have to ask: does a non-Jew have a soul? So that's a whole other discussion. So if you're going to take the position that no, um, you have to defend that position first of all. So I'm not sure what the question is exactly. When
Well,
does
we're
the
saying that the soul was formed 40 days
I would say
in the
I,
fetus, 40 days before conception, 40 days before birth, and so forth. Now, a ger, he's maybe 40 years old when he
okay,
converts.
so
Let's
maybe
say
he's getting an upgrade, not a new soul, but an upgrade.
an upgrade.
Yeah,
Or is
it
his
doesn't take
Jewish
40
soul
days.
formed 40 days before his actual conversion?
Okay,
Or 40 days that's before Mount Sinai? Or
I have no idea. Great question. Um,
it's a little
I
Kabbalistic,
don't
right?
even know how to approach that question. So whatever answer works for you, because of that. Guy has a servant and he gave him a this kind of special kind of bird to take care of. Amar, he said, "Kimduma ata she'ima tama abda shani noto mimcha iser b'damah." And don't think that if you don't take good care of this bird, if you lose the bird, you think I'm just gonna like take dock your paycheck. No, nishmascha ani noto mimcha. Actually, you'll owe me everything. You know, this is such a special bird. It has no price. It's like it's worth it's worth is infinite, and I guess metaphorically, he's saying I'm going to demand your soul in payment if you mess up with the bird. Okay, next mission. There were two tables in the ulam, as we saw before. Mibifnim, inside. Al Pesach Habayis, by the doorway to the mikdash. Echad shel shaish ve'echad shel zahav. Here, before we said one was silver and one was gold. Here we're saying one was marble and one was gold. Al shel shaish nosim lechem apanim bichnisaso. On the marble one, that's where you put the lechem apanim when you come in, the fresh one. Avial shel zahav b'yitzias. On the golden one, where you put the old lechem apanim on your way out. Shemalim bakodesh v'lo marin. As we saw before, because we ascend in kedusha and don't descend. V'yachad shel zahav mibifnim. The inside the heichal, that was where the golden table was. Shalav lechem apanim tamid. That's where the lechem apanim sat all week. V'arba kohanim nichnasim. The procedure was four kohanim would come in. Shnayim biyadam shnei sedarim. Two of them held. There was 12 loaves of bread, but they were in two stacks. So two of them were holding, each one was holding one of the sacks of bread. And two of the kohanim had in their hands one of the spoons of levana. V'arba'a makdimin lifneim. There were four more kohanim who preceded them, kind of ceremonially. Shnayim litel shnei sedarim, and two of them would be to remove the two stacks of bread that were already on the table from last week. Ushnayim litel shnei bazichim, and two more to remove the spoons of levana that were there from last week. The ones bringing in the new bread and levana, they would stand on the north side of the shulchan facing the south. The other ones, the ones that were removing last week's, would stand in the south and face the north, so they're facing each other. And they would have, as the four kohanim are removing last week's, the other four kohanim would be placing the new stuff. V'tipcho shel zeh keneged tipcho shel zeh. Um, like there was always the same amount of stuff on the table because I'm slowly removing my the last week's stuff and you're slowly putting on last week's stuff, so there, you always have it's like those movies where some guy is standing on a mine, and how are you going to remove your foot from the landmine without blowing yourself up? So you try to replace the weight as you remove your foot. Maybe a bad example. Um,
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
okay. The team
Because the
coach was
other
that.
another fellow puts
Okay,
his
I
foot down.
withdraw the example, but you get the idea. Um, Yeah. Shenemar, and how do I know this is the procedure? Lefanai tamid, because it says the Torah says that lechem should be on the shulchan continuously. Um, okay. Rabbi Yossi Amar, afilu elu notlin v'elu manichin. No, you don't have to be so literal. Rabbi Yossi says you could take the old bread off, last week's bread off completely, and then put the new bread on that still counts. Afi haisotami. That's still talking. That's still considered. It's always there. It doesn't be there every second. It means it's always, that's always enough. If you take off your last week's bread and put on and then put on this week's bread, that's good enough to be considered. It's always there. Yatsu,
Yes,
and
there's
then
a commentary here. It says, as long as it does not remain a single night without the showbread on it.
right, because then you would get into yeah, that would be considered. Um, then the question is like, well, what's how long could it be left there? So yeah, so the Mefarshim say, according to Rabbi Yossi anyway, that as long as it's the same day. Now what about the procedure after they do the switch? Yatsu, so they leave the Heichal and the Sanum al Shulchan Azal Sheibulam, and they put the old bread on the golden table in the Ulam. Hiksiru Abazichin, and then the Levana goes to the Mizbeach, gets burned on the Mizbeach. Viva Chalos Mischakos Lakonim, and the bread gets divided among the Kohanim who can eat. Now, Chol Yom Kippurim Lios for Shabbos. What if Yom Kippur falls on Shabbos? So Shabbos was the day that they would do the switch, right? Um, so, then the Kohanim can't be eating the bread on Yom Kippur. So Hachalos Mischalkos La'erev. So don't give them out on the day. Wait till the evening. Wait till the fast is over, and then you give out the bread. Cholios B'erev Shabbos. What if Yom Kippur is on Friday? Sayer Shal Yom Kippurim Nechal Erev. So then the Seir of Yom Kippur you can't eat on like how do you eat it basically on Shabbos? So you eat it Friday night, right after Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is Friday. Yom Kippur ends and it's Shabbos, and that's when you eat the goat. V'abavlim ochlin. So the problem is, how do you cook it? You can't cook it on Yom Kippur for the next day, right? But you can't cook it on Shabbos because it's Shabbos, right? So what do? Habavlin ochlin oso kishuchai, and then you would take these Babylonian Kohanim. They would be the ones in that case who would get it to eat because they would eat it raw. B'nei Shadat and Yafa, because they're not they don't they eat this kind of, I don't know, they're kind of criticizing the Bavliim. It's like it's kind of gross to eat raw goat meat, right?
But isn't that
Um,
Aver Menachai? You're taking it off from the
no, it's dead. No, chai doesn't mean alive. It means raw. Chai here means raw. You'd eat it raw. Like definitely this ear was dead. It was sacrificed on Yom Kippur on
right.
Friday, right? And then time to eat it Friday night, but you can't cook it. So these guys who ate raw meat, they would be the ones to eat it.
So maybe that's one of the reasons. One, I don't. That's not the main reason. One reason why Yom Kippur is never on a Friday now.
Well, the I think
The,
that
the main reason you
postdated the
can't have
Mikdash.
two Shabbatot,
Yeah.
Shabbat. But I'm thinking maybe this is another reason.
Okay, maybe so. Um, okay, so Gemara says Tanya. We have a Bryce. Rabbi Yossi Omer. Afilu silei kasayashana shafris. Even if you take now this is addressing the question that you mentioned before. Even you take the old bread off the table in the morning. V'sidar sa chadasha arvis, and you put the new one on in the evening, or let's say the afternoon, and bekachlum. That's okay. Elamani mekayim l'fanai tamid. So what does it mean tamid? You always have to have bread. Shlo yalin shulchan below lachem. Not that you shouldn't leave it overnight without bread on it. That's what tamid means. Amar Rami, midvaros Rabbi Yossi nilmod. We can learn from what Rabbi Yossi says that there can be a gap. Afilu lashana adam el perak echad shachris, perak echad arvis. Ki mitzvahs lo yamush sefer Torah zemi picha. Um, you're always supposed to be learning Torah, so we can derive from what Rabbi Yossi says about the bread that if you learn once in the morning, once in the afternoon, you just learn one parak in the morning, one parak in the evening. That's good enough. That means you're always learning Torah. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. Afilu Lakara Adam El Kriyas Shema Shachos Shalei Arvis. Like what counts as learning one parak, even if you just read Kriyas Shema in the morning and the evening. Kiyam Lo Yamush. That's like you're always learning Torah. V'davar zeh asur l'amar b'fnei ha'mayars, but don't tell anybody. Don't tell, especially the ignorant people, don't tell them this because they'll take advantage. They're like, okay, so there really is no incentive to learn Torah. It's if I say Kriya Shema every morning and every night, then I'm Yotzek. And I don't have to learn anymore. But Rava says, mitzvah or we say, it's Adarabba. You
But
should
I would think it's better to tell them because they're
exactly. That's what
limited
Rava
in their
says.
learning. So at least
That's
they're Makayim the mitzvah of learning Torah. If they know what the Kriya Shema is sufficient, they feel better then.
or even more than that. Rava is understood to be saying that it's an incentive. It's like they would say to themselves, "Oh wow, like I can be Mekayim the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, a really important mitzvah with just this minimal effort. Imagine if I also learned, spent an extra hour in the morning, an extra hour in the evening learning. Imagine what how good that would be." So that's Rava's approach. Is that like tell them that you know even for just Kriya Shema, you're Mekayim the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. So imagine if you could learn more, it's even better. Shalom Dama ben Achoshu was Rabbi Shmuel was Rabbi Shmuel. Dama, who was Rabbi Shmuel's nephew, asked him the following question. Kigon ani, shalamati kol Torah kula. I know the whole Torah. I learned everything. Ma'u lilmod chachmas yivanis. Now that I've learned the whole Torah, can I learn chachmas yivanis, this Greek wisdom? So it's very unclear what Greek wisdom is, but elsewhere the Gemara criticizes those who study Greek wisdom. So whatever it is, it's like, can I learn something, that like I understand I'm not supposed to learn Greek wisdom, but once I've learned the whole Torah, then can I learn Greek wisdom? Karl of Mikrazah, so Shmuel told him this pasuk: "Lo yamush sefer Torah zeh mipicha v'agisa bo yom v'layla." Torah says, Moshe says here, is it Moshe or or Hashem? Somebody says to Yeshua, "This Torah should
It
not
was Rabbi
depart from your
Yishmael,
mouth."
no?
Yeah, but he's reading a pasuk. Layamush sefer Torah zemi picha v'agisa b'yom v'layla. Don't This Torah should not leave your mouth, and you should study it day and night. Okay, you want to learn Greek wisdom? Go find a time that is not day and not night, because the pasuk tells you should learn Torah day, you should learn Torah by night. So if you find some other time, that's when you can learn Greek wisdom. In other words, he's telling him, no, you can't learn Greek wisdom because you should spend your whole day and night still learning Torah, regardless of how much you know. Upliga to Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani, but this is against Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani. The Yom Shmuel bar Nachmani Rabbi Yonasan. Pasuk zeh eno lachova v'lo mitzvah el bracha. This pasuk isn't telling you what you have to do. It's not commanding you to learn Torah day and night. It's giving you a bracha that may you only learn Torah all day and all night. Right? That would be like a great thing. But it's not telling you this is what you have to do. It's like I wish this for you that that you should be such a great Torah learner that you do it all day and all night. Rakash Baruch Yeshua. Shedivrei Torah chavivim lav yaser. God saw that Yeshua he loved to learn Torah. Shenamar Moshe Yeshua ben Nunar layamish mitoch ha'ochel, as it says in Torah that Moshe's servant, his assistant, Yeshua, wouldn't leave the Ohel Moed. Amar Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Yeshua, kol kach chavivim lecha divrei Torah. You love Torah so much. Layamish sefer Torah zamipicha. I'm blessing you. Hashem says, I'm blessing you, Yeshua, that you'll always be, you'll always love to learn Torah. You'll always be able to learn Torah. So it's not that he's commanding him to do so. He's giving him bracha that this is what you love to do. I bless you that you'll be able to continue to do so. Divrei Torah lo yuhu alecha chova. Don't treat the words of Torah like a debt, like something that you have to pay. Via Torah shayli ftaratz b'chamehen, and you can't because. This is the kind of debt that you can never get rid of, right? Like if you owe somebody $1,000, once you've paid the $1,000, you're done. But the Torah is not something that you can ever get finished with learning. So if you treat it like an obligation that you can kind of make yourself free of, that's not so. It's like it's a never-ending obligation. Amar Chizkiah Ma'ad Chsiv, Af Hasischa Mipi Tsar Rachav Lo Mutzach Tachtea. Um, The Torah says, the Navi says in Eov, what does it mean that he has enticed you from a narrow opening, a wide place that's not narrow at the bottom, so like a pyramid. God is not like people. If you want a person who's trying to negatively influence someone, or well, what a human when a human tries to tempt you, he's usually tempting you with negative things, right? He's trying to get you uh, to depart from good things, from derech chaim, from things of life to things of death. Because Baruch Hu, Meisi Adam being derech misal derech chaim. The Eov is using the word hasischa, that God is trying to seduce you from the ways of death to the ways of life. Shneimar v'af hasischa mipitzar. That pasuk says mi Gehenna shapiatzar. What is the narrow place? The narrow place is Gehenna, which whose entrance is narrow. She'asana tzavor. Shashana tzavor. Why is it narrow? So that the besocha, so that the smoke will kind of concentrate within Gehenna. In other words, there's a narrow opening to Gehenna so that all the smoke there won't be able to won't disperse so easily. V'shema tomar kashem shapiatzar kachulatzar. Maybe the whole thing is narrow. Lamar hami kirchiv. God has made it deeper and wider. V'shema tomar lamelach lo chuchna.
What is the point of that? I don't understand. He makes it wider? Why? Why does he make the opening for Gehenna larger, wider?
Beats me. No, not the opening, but the whole thing. Um, this is a pasuk in Yeshayahu that discusses that Gehenna is very very wide and deep. Okay, lots of room for us sinners. Um,
So the opening is narrow, and the it says tsar kach kula tsara, but
no, so it's Shema
hemik.
Tomar. Maybe you think the whole thing is narrow. No, the whole thing is not narrow because it says Hami Kirchiv that God made it deep and wide. So only the opening is narrow. The rest of it is broad.
So what's the point of that? Why is the no opening narrow and the rest of it?
Well, it says before we just said that why is the opening narrow so that the smoke can't get out. So make it as unpleasant as possible.
Oh,
Keep all the smoke in. Veshama Tomar Lamelech Lohuchna. Maybe you want to say that it's not prepared for the king. So the understanding here is the king is not the king, but the king is the Talmud Chacham. Like maybe a Talmud Chacham who departs from the way of Torah doesn't go to Gehenna. Talmud Lamar Gam Hila Melech Chuchan. Pasuk says that's also it's all this Gehenna is also prepared for the king. Again, understood here as the Talmud Chacham. V'shema Tamar ein ba'etzim. Maybe you'll think there's no wood, like they're going to run out of wood to burn the fires of Gehenna. Talmud Lomar Midurasa Eish ve'etzim harbeit. Don't worry, there's lots of fire and lots of wood. V'shema Tamar zeu schara. And maybe you think that this is the reward for Talmud Chacham for the good things that he did, even if he departs the straight and narrow path. Maybe the reward is that um, like that he just gets saved from Gehenna, but not that he gets Gan Eden or whatever, not that he gets some other reward. Talmud Lomar, v'nachas shulchancha malei deshen. Your table will be laid with like luxury. Okay, that's the reward for. So the idea is that it's not just that the reward for being a Talmud Chacham is the absence of Gehenna, but actually you get to go to Gan Eden and live the good life or the good death, if you will. Okay. Um, Now back to the Mishnah. Chol Yom Kippurim liyos b'Shabbos. So we had this like what happens if Yom Kippur is on Shabbos or Erev Shabbos. So who are these Bavliim that ate the raw meat? Amar Rav Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Lo Bavliim Haim El Alexandrium Haim. They're actually not Babylonians. They're out from Alexandria, the ones that ate the raw meat. When we told Shasonin some Bavliim, because the rabbis really didn't like the Babylonians, Karinos El Shem Bavliim. It's like a general negative term, like these rascals. They actually happen to be from Alexandria, but they are covered by this kind of general, um, negative terminology, calling them Bavliim, um, which is a little strange because, like, the Talmud Bavli is from from Bavel, right? Tanya Nami Hache, Rabbi Yossi, Lo Bavliim, Rabbi Yossi says similarly, Lo Bavliim Hem Alexandrium Hem. They're not actually from Bavel, from Alexandria. And we told Shasonin as Bavliim because the rabbis didn't like the Bavliim. Karnos no Shem Bavliim. They called these Alexandrians when they wanted to disparage them. We called them Bavliim. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Tanuach Datcha Shehinachta Dati. Rabbi Yehuda, who came from Bavel, he's like, oh, that's good to hear, right? um, at least like so. Okay, the rabbis don't like us, but at least we don't eat raw meat. Okay, so it's not actually Babylonians who are eating raw meat.
Oh, it's the Alexandrians, not the Bublins.
Yeah,
The Bublin.
right.
So he's nice. His mind is
Seven meats.
at
Yeah,
ease now. He said, "No, you're not."
yeah. Okay, let's stop here for today. Pick it up tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.
You sure?
Mhm.